I love The Lord of the Rings. I clearly remember coming home from middle school, throwing on my extended edition Return of the King DVDs, and watching them through from beginning to end every single day while I did my homework. Or, at least while I attempted to do my homework. The films still hold up great today, just last week I popped in Two Towers just so I could get a look at the last March of the Ents, and I was amazed at how amazing everything looked. Even though they were using miniatures during the flooding of Orthanc and the Siege of Helm's Deep, it still looks like a film that could come out today. But even though Peter Jackson and the folks at Weta Design did an amazing job, there are a few blunders from the editing room and the staff on set that ended up in the final film. Today, I'm going to take a look at the biggest three. First on my list is EOMER'S falling sword. Now, this is one of my personal favorite mistakes from this film because it's just kind of ridiculous. Think about it. In the movie, EOMER is a Marshal of the Mark, and not only held an Eorid under his command, and an Eorid is the technical term for a unit of 100 or so mounted knights, but not only that, but EOMER also was the future king of Rohan. So in the scene when EOMER discovers Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas traveling through the Mark, he initially greets them with hostility, because it was so strange to see three different races traveling together, especially now that Saruman's influence was growing. But after Aragorn reassured the rohirrim that they were only seeking their friends, Merry and Pippin, who had been captured by Uruk-hai, EOMER had a change of heart. He realized that he might have accidentally killed the two halflings in a raid on an Uruk-hai camp the night before actually, and in a sign of compassion or perhaps, guilt, EOMER gifted 2 horses to Aragorn and his friends. But when EOMER turned to remount his own steed, you could clearly see his sword falling out of his scabbard, which is ridiculous. Again, I said it earlier. He's one of the most skilled warriors in Middle-earth during the later Third Age. He should be able to keep a sword tucked into his scabbard. In all honesty, this mistake probably had more to do with the design of the scabbards, which didn't fit snugly enough with the blade, instead of EOMER'S own failings as a warrior. Next is Gandalf's electrical cable. In the mines of Moria, Gandalf led the Fellowship through the caves and tunnels, trying to avoid the orcs who had taken home there. And at the start of their journey, right after the Watcher in the Water had used his tentacles to destroy Durin's door, Gandalf placed a chunky crystal into his staff and whispered it to life. A soft glow emitted from the stone, and the entire cave suddenly breathed with a mild light. Now, when I saw this scene, I was struck by the depth of Gandalf's powers. We rarely got to see the plain, simple magical feats from the wizard in the film. Whatever magic he usually conjured was usually used for fights, or were so abstract that it was hard to fathom how they related to the real world. But using magic to power a little portable flashlight now, that was something that was practical, real-world magic that I could get behind. And apparently, in order to power that little device, the production crew rigged Gandalf's cloak with a battery pack and a cable that ran under the sleeve of his cloak. And if you look closely, you can actually see the wire in some shots of the movie, which is a pretty big mistake and something that's going to nag at you whenever you go back to watch it. Last on this list is Frodo's moving scar. Now, by the events of the Return of the King, the members of the Fellowship had been through some pretty rough times. And Frodo in particular had survived a stabbing by the Nazgul, a brawl with Smeagol, and his capture by Faramir's Rangers. With all of those hardships, the young Baggins even picked up a scar or two. But one scar in particular had a bad habit of moving throughout the film. During the final march to Mount Doom, when Gollum followed them in the shadows, a deep, dark, and pretty painful scab or scar took up a pretty big chunk of jawline on Frodo's face. But you can clearly see that it not only changed its position, sometimes inching higher, sometimes inching lower, but it also jumped from the left to the right side and then back again. There are actually a few more mistakes from the trilogy that I'd love to talk about, especially the random card that appeared in the theatrical release of The Fellowship of the Ring, but I'll have to save those for a future video. Maybe I'll even give you a rundown of each individual film's mistakes because there are quite a few. What about you guys? What are your favorite mistakes or continuity errors from the films? Let me know in the comments below.